Let's talk about ocean beings. I have a lot of experience and more as my connection to the ocean is growing through clients and through my own work with different types of ocean beings. This is a large topic that I could talk about for hours, and I'm just going to try and condense a bunch of topics into a short span of time. So give you an overview of the different types of beings that exist in our oceans and beyond, in a sense. So the ocean is a gigantic portal of water. It is an energy, it is a consciousness. I call her Mother Ocean. All the water of our oceans and seas are connected in some way, even up to the rivers, the streams, lakes. It's all connected. It's all one big being of energy, and within it exist many other beings. There are, the physical beings. You have the physical galactics and others, interdimensionals and things that use the oceans. There are places in the oceans that have high levels of activity of extraterrestrial ships and those types of things. They are under the oceans. I've had experiences where I've been taken astrally to ships that are on the essentially motherships that are sitting on the bottom of the oceans, and then little ships that like lift off of them and go do their thing while the mothership is just sitting on the ocean floor, type of thing. They're out there. But then you have the other types of beings. You have which way do I want? There's so many ways I could take this conversation. Well, since we're starting with galactics, let's start kind of with those types of beings. So you have other beings, civilizations living inside the oceans. You have beings that are living in the Marianas Trench. I've shared some of those on my social media that are humanoid in nature, and humanoid, but they look like some of them have cuttlefish, squid type heads, octopus heads. I've seen crab-like, this very interesting, like, the crab-like being is the way he had a hard shell of a face, but then he had like a soft head, which was interesting on top. And there are others. They've said they're at the bottom of the trenches. Some of them I've seen swimming on the bottom of the shallower parts of the oceans and watching people swim by. Like as I'm talking to them, they're on the bottom and they're looking up and watching people who are swimming or surfing or boats going by, and people don't know there's something standing there. Now, how could this be? How could we not know about this? Well, first of all, we do know about it. It's just hidden from us. Second, these beings, a lot of them live in a different vibration that's just slightly different than ours. So you wouldn't really see them right away. And 200 years ago, you wouldn't see them at all. But now the Earth's vibration is rising. Our vibration as a collective is rising, and people are able to see them more. And so there are videos out there. I've seen some pretty good, compelling videos that I do not believe are doctored. I try not to share videos or images on my social media because there's so many out there that are actually fake, generated with computer graphics or, people in costumes, all this other stuff. But I have seen some of the ocean beings that feel to me very compelling, of people on ships, especially tanker crate ships. What are the shipping crates? Ships that ship shipping crates. Those big ones with all those metal crates on them. I've seen people like videotaping things in the water, hearing the siren calls that sailors used to talk about, and seeing beings and sometimes bioluminescence and other things in the water as this stuff is going on. That's all real. Now, whether the videos are real, I can't say, but those beings actually exist. There are very high levels of conscious being, conscious like individuals and societies in the oceans that are, some of them are physical, some of them are like us, physical, more dense. Some of them are just slightly higher vibrational, like you could imagine a Sasquatch. A Sasquatch, I've talked about in my other videos how they're interdimensional in a way that they vibrationally shift in and out of our dimension. So one moment somebody's seeing them because they've decided to be in this more physical vibration, and then when they notice they've been seen, you hear the stories of they like took a step or two and disappeared. And that's part of the reason, of several reasons, but one of the reasons is that they're a higher vibrational being and living in a different space of the conscious layers of our earth. And the ocean is a vastly misunderstood, underexplored area of our world. Most of the oceans we know, I believe what they say is we know less about our own oceans than we know about the stars, the galaxy, like, you know, the skies and stuff. We know, it's like we know more about that than we do our own oceans on Earth. So there are all these beings out there. You know, if you're on a boat and you see something in the water and you see a mermaid or a lake folk or merfolk or whatever word you want to use, I've seen all of them. I've stood by a river and watched what I would call a river folk, a man. You can see him on my Instagram page. He's got like a belt around with these reed clothing and like a satchel. He was carrying a spear, I believe, and he was walking down the river. Nobody could see him but me. He ended up sitting there by the river, walking out of the river because a bunch of kids walked into it to swim, and he just kind of sat off to the side and watched the kids. And he was just there, like, doing his daily thing. He just lives around the area or something. I've seen mermaids in the unlikeliest of places. Usually people, you hear mermaid, you think ocean. You think Disney's Ariel, you think actually can't think of another Hollywood story really about mermaids. I guess there aren't a ton of them out there. Luca is a good one where he's kind of like a mermaid. It's another Pixar Disney movie. But they exist in the ocean and outside the ocean. They're in lakes. I had one where I was working with a Sasquatch by a lake, and I walked up to the lake, and before, I think it was before Kunlai is the name of the Sasquatch, walked out of the woods and sat with me. A mermaid was swimming in the lake, and I call them undine, water spirits, water folk. So she's swimming in the lake, she swims up, and I can feel her, and my third eye wasn't as activated as it is these days, but I knew she was there. And I was going through a ton of activations during this period. This is back at the beginning of 2020, I think. So I'm sitting by the lake and I'm talking to her. I'm like, I know she's there. And I can hear her saying, come into the water. She's doing a siren thing. I can hear the like, come in, come play, come have fun. I see you, come on. And doing it in like a very seductive voice. I could see her image in my mind. Very beautiful mermaid. I'd probably describe her more as a merfolk, because people typically have this image of mermaids that are like half human and half fishtail. She was half fishtail and like fishy humanoid fins on her head and all kinds of stuff on her. The way that the majority of them appear when I've seen them, they don't look like us they don't look like Ariel basically, but they don't look like the Disney representations. At least I have never seen one of that nature anytime I've connected one from Earth or other places. So she comes up and she's talking to me, and then my Sasquatch friend comes out, and when she's talking to me, I'm like, no, I'm not going in there. I know exactly what you are. and I knew enough not to get into the water because a lot of these beings do not like humans. And it's something I try to teach people as I do this work. Just because something tells you it wants to work with you or to do this or that it's okay does not mean it has the greatest intentions. A lot of them do not like humans, and I want to be clear about that. That does not make them evil, malicious, or anything of the nature. Think about what we have done to the world. Right there. Just think about what we have done to the world. There's a reason they don't like humans. So I knew from the stories, and especially the old stories, the sailor stories, that if something like that calls you, don't get into the water because it's going to try and do something to you. It's going to try and hurt you. And I told her, and I could feel it too. Like, she did not have, it wasn't that she was malicious or evil or anything, but I could feel a mischievous and like, I'm going to do something to you if you get into the water. So then my Sasquatch comes out, sits down, and in the instant that I told her that, the mermaid, that her name was Ursula, I asked her name, and she picked Ursula of all things, which from The Little Mermaid is the villain in The Little Mermaid. But this was not a villain, to be very clear. So it was kind of like a funny little aside to what I ended up calling her. But she, in an instant, when I told her, I could hear her, I could see her in my mind, I could feel her, and I wasn't going to just follow her on a whim. She was like, oh, okay, you like can connect with us and talk to us. Oh, okay, all right. Instant respect, because I told her no, I would not do what she asked me to. Instantly respected me. So I sat there having a conversation with this merfolk woman and a Sasquatch while people were on the lake. Nobody could see them because they're out of the physical vibration. And then I ended up building a friendship with her. I would go back. I went back one time, and I was questioning the experience of actually meeting this being. And I sat on a log by the edge of this lake, and I could feel her, and she rushes up and jumps on another log and sits there. Beautiful, beautiful merfolk woman. They do most of these beings, to be clear, do not wear clothing. A lot of extraterrestrials don't wear clothing. Some of them more human in their livelihoods and existence. I would like say do have clothes, but like Sasquatch don't wear clothing. A lot of the Zeta gray type beings don't wear them. Fairies, it all depends on the type and who they are. And ocean beings, I don't know if I've seen, there are very, very few that I've seen actually wearing something that they've made. Usually they're just naked. So that's not don't be surprised if you start seeing beings and you just see full-on nudity. In America, we have this, in possibly other countries, I don't know, we have this stigma over the natural form, and it's part of in the Journey of Spirit art book that I have behind me here, this book that I wrote a while ago. It's a visual book of a bunch of ETs and beings I've met and clients have met, and there are actually, now that I have it, and since you're watching a video, for those of you who are watching the video version, I can pull up some of the artwork in here that is related to these ocean beings, because there are some in here. So we have this stigma around nudity, and one of the things that ETs and fairies have said through this book, because it's not technically a children's book, but a lot of people buy it for their children, and they say teach the children not to fear nudity because they are nude. A lot of them are. So this being Rudy was from the Mariana Trench. And so there'll just be a few of these as I go through here. But Ursula jumps up on that log. So remember, she's a merfolk. She jumps up on the log. She looks beautiful. She's seductive. And again, she goes through this phase of asking me, like, come on, do you want to play with me? Come on. Like, she's being very playful. But at this point, I knew her well enough to know she's being playful It's in her nature to be just a playful feminine energy. In this time, there's absolutely no mischievousness behind it. She's just being friendly in her way, type of thing. And I'm like, no, I'm not getting the water. And if I remember right, it was like probably October, November. And I go, but am I really seeing you? Because it's one of the first full experience. Like, I can see her on the log. Now, I can't see her with my physical eyes. It's like I can see kind of the energy, the hazy pavement energy form of her, and my third eye can fully see her on this log standing there, or not standing there. She has like a tail type thing, so like sitting up propped. And I go, come, you show me, if you're really there, show me something. She goes, okay, I'll make a fish jump. And she points to a location, goes, a fish will jump over there. And I watch her jump into the water, and I can see her swim through the water about 100 to 200 feet out. And right when she gets to the point she pointed to, fish jump. And then I go, I don't know, maybe that's just good timing. And she goes, okay, over there. And she swims over the opposite direction and fish jump right where she said. And then she jumps back up onto the log and she goes, okay, do you believe me now? So I knew instantly that Ursula was real. And I've had a lot of experiences with these beings in more landlocked ways, because I do not live on the ocean, have as much experience with the ocean. But I experience the ocean through other means, astral travel, telepathy, client readings, all this. So we're getting to the ocean being part of this, but you need to understand these other things too. So I'm seeing river folk. I see, lake folk or merfolk, whatever you like to call them. A lot of them don't have names. There are the Gilliam, for example, are a group of what many would call fairies living by a creek, and most people would be like, oh, those are like pixies or gnomes or something down there. They use a general label, and when I asked them, they're like, we're called the Gilliam. Like, that's their, they called it, I believe they called it like a tribe, like a village of them. And if you went 500 to 1,000 feet down the river, it was like territory. Like, that was their territory. They did not enter the territory where the Sasquatchers lived, because the Sasquatchers did not like them because of their energy. And they did not enter the territory of the similar beings like them who lived upriver, 1,000 feet. Like, they had these sections, and they had these little societies, essentially. So as I'm developing my awareness of all these beings, I start connecting through a lot of client readings, for the most part, with the oceans, and realizing the Marianas Trench, just like I showed you Rudy a few minutes ago, has life, that there is life all through the oceans. Here's one here. This was an interdimensional, mixed with the DNA of octopuses and squids and other such animals. They went on to talk about walking out of the ocean to greet people who raise their vibration. Only a few cities are settled on their conscious layer of Earth. This was one of the ones that they said they weren't a numerous race. They just have like pockets of these little cities around. And this is what they kind of looked like there. And then I've had experiences where I've gone to the ocean, and as soon as I get in, like, I'll be with a friend, and I was in LA one time with a friend, and I walked in the water, and she was like, please don't go in the water with me again. And I went, why? She says, because as soon as you go into the water, and so I'm standing beside you, all this stuff comes up and starts being like, hey, you can see us, you can talk to us, and you see all these energies. You see energy coming up, you see beings, little beings that are living by the beaches, all kinds of stuff like, oh, hey, let's come talk to you. And I've even had the ocean play games with me. I was in LA on that trip. I was standing in the ocean by myself, early morning. I think my flight arrived like 6 a.m. in the morning or something. It was really early because I left at like, I probably left at 6 a.m. in Ohio and then got there at the same time due to time differences. And I'm sitting there by the beach and the waves are hitting me and I can feel the energy of the ocean and I'm feeling her, and all of a sudden I can feel her calling and saying, go deeper and stand up. Like, I don't want to. She's like, just go deeper and stand up. I'm going to hit you with a wave. And I had all these little waves coming at first. I went and she did. Every time she was like, okay, I'm going to send you a large wave would come and hit me. And it was like this little game the ocean and I played. So I started building a little more of a relationship with the ocean personally. And the more I did that, the stronger it got for my clients and others too. I was in Arizona one time. It was a few months. I think it was my trip in May. I was in Arizona on the top of a mountain. I'm not close to the ocean at all. And I'm falling into like a meditation, sleep state type of thing. And whales start talking to me. Whales, right whales. I do not know the patterns of whales. I do not know like, I love whales. I used to know all that, but I'm like, I don't know that anymore, where they live, all this stuff. And they're like, we're right whales. We want you to go here. We're out this way. And they give me locations and I start getting called and I'm telepathically having these conversations with whales. Even talking about this now, I haven't spoken to them probably a month or two at least. Whales are highly conscious. Dolphins are highly conscious. These beings in the ocean that we physically see are highly conscious, even the simple things like crabs and lobsters and all that. And whales are by far the most. Whales and turtles, I would say, and octopi are the three that I would probably say. And whales, and when I say whales, I'm grouping whales, porpoises, all into the same category type of thing. So you have these very intelligent, highly conscious beings out there who can telepathically connect to you and do so quantumly, because it's what telepathy is, but not in your physical presence. I was on a mountain in Flagstaff and a pod of whales starts talking to me. And I'm like, this can't be real. And then I start looking up. I'm like, oh, wow, there's this place in Maine, this big thing where they're kind of like, go up to Maine and do this and that. And they showed me right where they were coming from. A lot of people are going to start experiencing those types of things, talking to animals in the ocean when there is no ocean around. Don't dismiss that. That is a legitimate experience. So then I start doing divine counsel transmissions. And if you're not sure what a divine counsel transmission is, just a real quick overview. It's where I take a 9x16 piece of paper and I draw for a single client as many beings as I can fit on it and give them a reading. Typically lately they've been averaging about 30 plus beings and over a 25-page reading. And then we do like, there's sessions involved and some other things. So it's a big value package for people who really want to expand their awareness of the different realms of beings: fairies, angels, dragons, galactics, interdimensionals, and oceans. Now, when I first started these, very few ocean beings were coming through. I've done 3 recently. One of them had like 8 ocean beings across the bottom. Another one had kind of a big section of 8 or 9 of them off to the side. And the last one had the entire bottom half was almost all ocean related individuals. And these were 2 of them. 2 of them were people. One was living in LA. One is living in, I believe, like off the coast of Turkey by the Aegean Mediterranean Sea somewhere. And then the other client is landlocked and still had all kinds of ocean beings around them. A lot of things I'm learning through those are, for one, coral is highly telepathic, highly conscious, and connected all across the world. One of those clients after that session was able to connect with his coral locally, and it sent him to another country, to the edge of the ocean in another country far off to spread some light. Coral, highly conscious and connected. The more I learn about it, the more I realize it's basically the fungi of the sea. Is essentially what it comes down to. There are, I've been getting a lot of messages about beings living in spaces of the ocean that some of our society knows about, but it's hidden from us, and that people will be extremely surprised about when we find out these are real. Now, for those of you who know of the coelacanth, it's like a prehistoric fish that was thought for hundreds, if not thousands of years to be extinct. They had found fossils of it, bones, nobody had ever caught one, that type of thing. And in the 1930s, I think they caught one off the coast of South Africa. They caught one, this prehistoric fish, not supposed to be alive for millions of years. Here it exists and it hasn't really changed, type of thing. So they realize, okay, this fish exists, and we were kind of wrong about it going extinct. Well, it's kind of the same with a lot of other beings too. If you watch the other videos about Fred, if you watch some of the reels about oceans before, I've mentioned in passing Megalodon. Megalodon is the largest shark that we know of exists. And I want to be very clear about this. Paleontology and archaeology are not a study of facts. And I don't mean facts because they are, but a lot of paleontology and archaeology, as I say this, I can just think of everything I learned as a kid and being like, it was just so wrong. A lot of it is they come to conclusions based on what they see, and those conclusions are often related to how their ego wants the outcome to be. And then that becomes the fact of the community. That becomes the fact of the archaeological, paleontological community, that because somebody discovered XYZ, and their own beliefs about that become the story of that thing they found. That is the problem with academics. A lot of academics do that. And over the years, when I was in college, I mean, this happens with Atlantis. Every revelation of like uncovering of a lost city becomes this story of, oh my God, we found Atlantis, because that's what people want. It's like, no. You can't start saying that until you know what it is. But there are a lot of things in our history, in our archaeology, in our paleontology that have become fact and we don't talk about this in the books and being like, okay, we don't actually know what lived 1,000,000 years ago. We don't know what lived 1,000 years ago. We don't know what lived 200 years ago, because all the people that lived 200 years ago are dead. We don't know. We have this information and we have these pieces and artifacts and things that tell us XYZ existed. And so we say, we found evidence of a megalodon, the largest shark known to man, that lived for however long it lived and does not exist anymore. It is a prehistoric shark. It is not alive because we have never seen one. And we have never seen one, but we have found bone fragments of it. Well, how do we know, one, that that was the largest shark ever to exist? We don't. How do we know it didn't have a predator? We don't. How do we know it's not still alive? We don't. The oceans are vastly unexplored, and there is now a I don't know the word to use, but there are now stories and videos and things coming up of some of these beings potentially being sighted through satellite imagery and other stuff, because people have access to like Google Earth and all this other stuff, and they're like, wait, that looks like a shark, and they figure out the size of it and it matches Megalodon. Beings like that exist in our oceans. Now, I can't say for sure Megalodon does. I know what I'm told by spirit and by the beings that I work with. I know that there are stories now permeating Hollywood, like The Meg, about the existence of these beings in pockets where humans were not aware of them, that where they were able to exist in pockets safely without humans bothering them. I also know that the ocean, this is the strangest thing, there is a limit to the mass you can have on land before you collapse, before you can no longer operate. Like the gravity and the mass and everything just doesn't allow life to live at certain sizes. In the ocean, there's a limit at the top of the ocean. The deeper you go, the bigger you can become. And that's the craziest thing. I don't remember all the pieces and parts of that. I believe some of it also has to do with oxygen levels in the water. But the deeper you go into the ocean, the bigger something can get, even though it's higher pressure. Like, this is crazy to think about. But imagine that humans, the stories we used to tell of sea monsters existed, and then they killed off all the sea monsters. Imagine that those sea monsters escaped into the depths to be hidden, to stay hidden, and the stories became stories, and here every once in a while a ship, one would rise and a ship would get it, or a dead body, whatever. Imagine you have a society who hides everything from everybody because they don't want people to know the truth. You can see where I'm going with this. It's very possible these beings live down there. I have seen some of them. I've met some of them telepathically. Enormous beings. There are gatekeepers down there. There are, on the bottoms of the ocean, there are not only places for these creatures to hide that we assume are extinct and are not. There are places for other worlds to access the ocean. They call them portals. Some of them don't look like energy portals the way that we would think, like a portal of energy opens and you can pass through it. I have seen some of the beings saying they are looking through a portal of water at the bottom of the ocean and watching stuff from their world into our ocean. I've had them say that some of them are from inner Earth, and there's a tunnel between the two oceans that they can cross through. I had one in one of my most recent readings. There's the Aegean Sea, the Mediterranean. Okay, so there's the Mediterranean Sea to the south that connects to the Aegean Sea. They're kind of like one, you could essentially call them one body of water. Then there's a big piece of land between Turkey and whatever the country is up above the Aegean. And then there's the Black Sea, I think. There are tunnels that connect those. So there are tunnels from the Black Sea to the Aegean, but then some of those tunnels are filled with water and some of them actually have land. And they showed me that some of these beings swim from sea to sea. I was like, at one point I was like, wait, you told me you were from here, but you feel like you're from up here. And they're like, oh yeah, let me show you. And it's that they swim through these tunnels of connected water. And what they've said is that all the oceans are, all the waters, bodies of water connected, which makes me always think of Loch Ness. People think Loch Ness is a myth, a mystery, not real. They're really down there in those cave systems. There are beings down there in those cave systems below Loch Ness in Scotland. That's the dinosaur-like that swims across that people report every once in a while. And all these tunnels that network all these bodies of water, physically network them. They can swim through the tunnels, and then every once in a while they have to get out on land. And those that can get out and move through land, because not all water beings can move on land. Not all of them are amphibious or like humans where they can walk and that sort of thing. So a lot of them will get out and they'll walk through the cave systems, and then they'll dive back into the tunnels and go to the next ocean or sea. And you have those spaces. And in those spaces, you have more stargates and portals and technologies and things that exist there with beings guarding them. One of the most recent I saw was this giant salamander. When I say giant salamander, I mean the idea they gave me is if a human stood in front of them, there was so first of all, it was in a big cavern-like space. There were like the water came up and you had to swim down through the oceans and those tunnel systems to come up through into that space. And then so there's air pressurizing to keep the water back, but you get out just like any underground cave that has air. You get out, you can walk around, but there's steps. There were these pyramid-like steps. Pyramid, not Egyptian pyramid, but like Mayan pyramid type steps, like the step pyramid type of things, like those steps built in. It always reminds me of Ghostbusters. You see the steps in Ghostbusters in the first movie going up to a portal of energy, but in front of the portal of energy is this giant salamander. And I'm like, holy cow, I can feel how intense he is and all this stuff. And he is a guardian to those other worlds. And there are others that I've heard about. I've heard about some in Hawaii. I think there's eels under Hawaii or something. There are beings in other places, under these different places. And so they make us look like ants. They are enormous, but they're not harming us. That's the clear thing I want to say. Humans are afraid of these things in our oceans, but they exist. The idea of a giant squid that can take down a ship, those things are out there. Not just those things, there are beings out there that the feeling I've had are the Greek storytelling of the Kraken and all these beings. Some of them are enormous in those sizes. And I've been shown some of the other stuff that's been down there. I don't talk about it much because one of the things is that I feel a lot of this stuff could scare people. And it's not about scaring people. It's about awareness that they are down there, that there are portals to other worlds that pass back and forth. And as the vibration rises, some of these beings are going to be able to pass from their physical worlds into our world, finally. And so there's going to be back and forth. Some of them have said they're just waiting. It's like the portal's open, they can see it, but it's just not vibrating right for their density to feel comfortable coming through. But once it vibrates right, poof, they're going to be swimming around our world. So you have all this stuff where we're going to start seeing a lot of things that we thought were fictions. But not to be afraid. Just because something is larger than you does not mean it's a threat. And that's one of the things Fred the Tortugan said. They live in a space on their world that has megalodon-like sharks. And I was like, well, aren't you afraid? He goes, no, we're not afraid. And I was like, why aren't you afraid? It's because we're conscious. We can talk to them. They have no desire to hurt us. So we talk to them. But do not forget, they are designed to find food too, and it is not their fault that they have to eat. He said they just guide them away. They're like, no, go somewhere else. And they're like, oh, conscious, we're going to go for the lower, the stuff that is not the conscious group of beings protecting themselves. So there are ways to interact with these beings, and a lot of them are big. And one of the reasons for this sort of discussion, just talking about some of these experiences, is to tell you You will start seeing merfolk, mermaids, sirens. You will start seeing beings in the oceans. I've seen them walk out. I was on Virginia Beach and had 3 walk out in the distance. They didn't want anything to do with me because like, ocean beings do not. Humans have done some disastrous things, and because we do not have a strong presence on the ocean because it's not land, it's hard for people like me to build a relationship with them. Like, I can go into the woods because I live on land, but I can't just walk into the ocean and start working with these beings in a more close proximity way. So there's still a lot of distrust there. There are a lot of them are coming back at humans. You can see that with the killer whales and other beings who are attacking boats, and people think it's funny. It's actually a true, legitimate thing, and it's not funny. It's a reflection of how angry the ocean is, and it's starting with these animals are going to show you they are not happy and you need to fix the situation. Stop dumping chemicals, stop destroying the ocean, stop being dismissive of it. And one of the best things you can do is go give offerings to the ocean, tell her you love her, work with her, all that. And then the other beings will see that and they will come to you, those in other vibrations. And there are a lot of them out there. A lot of them out there. Not just the animals, not just the what people will end up being like, oh, that's a sea monster. It's not a sea monster. It's a highly evolved, highly conscious, enormous creature from a space and time that is not ours right now. And they are waking. A lot of them are waking. Some of them are vibrationally in different spaces, so we just don't see them all the time. And one of the things I've been shown is like some of the massive waves ships think they're like, oh, it's just waves, just the wind and waves. It's actually like one of these beings in a different vibration that they can't physically see and understand is there, and it's moving through the water type of thing. But we're going to start seeing them. To date, I cannot say that I have met I've met very few, is what I'd say, ocean beings who truly have malicious intent. I don't feel that many do, and I feel most of them would work with humanity if humanity gave them a chance, and that you can too through meditation. And the way they start is they start by sending you things we can work with. Like I said, started with smaller beings, started with landlocked areas, started with things I could comprehend, moved into larger scale beings, and different concepts that I wasn't aware of. I know there were Stargates on Earth. I didn't know that there were enormous ocean beings and cavern beings and all this other stuff guarding some of them, that these portals go to inner Earth, they go to other worlds, they go to dimensions, all this other stuff. If you're experiencing those types of things, you're not going crazy. That's the biggest message of all. These ocean beings are real. They are calling people to the ocean to help to fix the oceans, to clear trash, to clear pollution, to stop the dumping, all that type of thing. And if you have a relationship with her, it's like, what I've been told is if they can see your glow in a way that your energy and vibration in a way that aligns with surrendering to the ocean, and that she is a sovereign being, that the entire ocean is a sovereign being, and the beings within the ocean are a sovereign being. If you can show that you surrender to that sovereignty and understand she is sovereign and you are sovereign, and you are willing to work with her, then you will be protected by her. You will be loved by her. You will be expanded by her. You will experience more than you can ever imagine. And you can live in a landlocked place like I do and still experience them through telepathy, still experience whales and dolphins and all this other stuff through quantum entanglement, astral travel, remote viewing, all that type of stuff. It's fascinating stuff. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to end it there. I have a lot of other experiences I could talk about, but really the biggest thing is the oceans are going to reveal a lot more than what people expect over the coming years. I don't know if it'll all be my lifetime. I'm assuming soon, based on the feelings I've had and the experiences I've had, but it will be revealing a lot more than people expect, and not to be afraid. Not to be afraid of anything. Some people are going to try and hide it. Understand that some of these stories are real, and there are past events that back up that they can happen again, like the coelacanth is one I always consider. The giant squid is another one. I didn't cover that. The giant squid, when I was a kid in the 90s, they were like, the giant squid isn't real. And nobody believed in it. And I was like, no, it's real. I know it's real. And then they found one and they captured it on video. And all those other people they called crazy. It was just like, well, we were wrong. Sorry. You're not crazy. Remember, you're not crazy for experiencing something that other people are not experiencing, because sooner or later, those people are going to find proof of it. Sooner or later, they're going to be like, no, we captured one on camera. We found XYZ. So keep that in mind as you go on this journey, that you will experience things, whether it's on land, at sea, in space, in other dimensions. And it's just for you to absorb, experience, enjoy, and understand that it is your experience, and you are waiting for a time when the whole of humanity can accept it. Until that time, you've got me. There's no story I've heard that I'm like, no, that can't be real. And that's often people start off, you won't believe me, but, and I'm like, no, trust me, I'll believe you. I've seen more than I share in any of my social media type of thing. So this is just a brief overview to tell you a little bit about the oceans, that there is more out there, and trust your experience. I love you all. If you feel called to a spirit art reading, please check out my website, awakenwithwillow.com. I've got the spirit art readings, divine counsel transmissions, books, oracle cards, and I'm currently working on a kid's book. Right now it is November of 2023. So if you're watching this between now and December 1st, there's the opportunity to join in on a children's project that I'm working on to help children connect to galactics and other types of beings. So awakenwithwillow.com. I love you all, and I appreciate you all for watching. Follow, like, and comment questions, those types of things, and I'll try to get back to you. Love you all. Grateful for each and every one of you.